Yeah, so I just woke up in Costa Rica. Still having an awesome time here. Um, so I just watched a video on artificial intelligence, which had a very interesting take on the subject. Most videos I've seen on artificial intelligence tend to take a very either a very technical view to the subject or a very moral view to the subject, either very afraid of what's to come or very technically driven around how this process will happen. And this video kind of took a step back, which is really interesting, and took a much more big picture think of it. It was a conversation between Neil deGrasse Tyson and Sam Harris. And the conversation starts very interestingly with them discussing extraterrestrial intelligence and the dangers of what we're trying to do around the SETI program, where they are trying to reach extraterrestrials, where we send out signals or we look into the sky and hopefully we get something back. Um, and the idea that Neil deGrasse Tyson poses, which is a really interesting one, is that we measure intelligence according to what we understand about intelligence, which is basically we benchmark it against ourselves. So we look at intelligence as art, engineering, philosophy, mathematics, those kind of ideas, and we say we are intelligent because we're the only creature we know of that can do that. And we look at the rest of the world and what we know about the universe and say, well, there's nothing there that's like that. We are superior to everything in the world, and it's our intelligence that separates us. And this is what intelligence means. His point is, if you look at potentially what our closest genetic cousin, or whatever you call it, is the chimpanzee. And when you look at the difference between us and chimpanzees from a genetic perspective, it's in the 1 to 2% range, which is closer than chimps are to gorillas, which is even closer to mice and rats. So this is literally kind of the closest species we have next to humanity. If you look at the difference between us and chimps in terms of cognitive ability, it's incredible. I mean, chimps can't even do basic mathematics. You know, they can't add, they can't philosophize, they can't build tools, etc., etc. They can't do a lot of things, and yet they're almost identical to us in almost in any genetic way. They're very, very close to us. So the idea he poses is, what if the next intelligence is also slightly genetically different from us? So if there's an extraterrestrial intelligence which is just genetically 1 in the 2% range, or even more in the 5% range, they could be so intelligent that we wouldn't even recognize what the hell intelligence looks like. So if they looked at our smartest individuals, if they lined up Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Stephen Hawking's, Einstein, John von Neumann, and said, give us your best mathematical theories and best algorithms and best exhibits of intelligence, they could find probably the dumbest version of themselves, and that dumb version of themselves could probably outrun circles around our smartest individuals. So the idea, which is really interesting, is we benchmark intelligence against ourselves as humans, but it's only because we've never seen anything else, right? We've never experienced intelligence outside of ourselves. We may look at a calculator that can do mathematics better than us. We've got a computer that plays chess better than us. We've got Google DeepMind, etc., etc., IBM Watson, you can name them. And we may look at them, but we can deconstruct those things completely down to their basic bare elements. And so we're able to still say we're intelligent. We built this thing, we know how it works, we understand it. Yes, it has more computing power. And even like the chimp actually has a much better active memory, so a much better short-term memory than a human. But we can deconstruct that and still say I'm still superior to that. But we haven't run into an intelligence that is on a general level superior to our own. And it raises a very, very interesting thought, because we're trying to, through artificial intelligence, build that. We're trying through the SETI program to discover that. So we know, we've got this kind of general understanding that intelligence is brilliant. It's created the world we live in. It's created vast amount of value for human beings over time. So we know it's awesome. We crave it. So we're looking for it. But we haven't really stopped to ask ourselves what is intelligence and what intelligence could potentially be, and what does a superior intelligence look in comparison to ourselves. And one of the most interesting things I did when I was researching this topic is look at our human evolution, and a lot of what's in our human evolution leads us to believe that intelligence has very little to do with our survival. So what has taken us to being the dominant species in the world has very little to do with what we consider to be our intelligence. In fact, if you take our primal ancestors and put them in a jungle, and you say to them, a lion is running towards you, philosophizing about what is a lion, and trying to do the trigonometry to figure out the distance and the angles between you and the lion is not the best thing to do. In fact, your instincts kick in, you run probably up a tree and hide from the lion. And when we look at our survival over time, it looks like intelligence has very little to do with our evolution. And one of the ways this is shown is the fact that that the majority of people in the world you wouldn't consider to be highly intelligent on the scale of nuclear physicists, rocket scientists, and etc. And the reason you know that is because there's so few people who can do some of the most intelligent work we do. The work NASA does, the work Facebook and Google do, the work academics do in universities is very limited to very, very specialized people who are very, very smart. And it's a rarity. So the majority of human beings born into the world are not born with this mind for mathematics and philosophy and art and creation and all of those things. Those skills have to be developed, and often there's a limited capacity among most people to learn those skills. So if you kind of look at us as a species, intelligence is not what we're built to do. Yes, we've developed intelligence within ourselves. We've implanted intelligence in our universe, or in our world, basically. We do everything we can to create more and more intelligence. We build databases and new ways to analyze them. We try and make that ubiquitous so everybody gets access to it, whether through your cell phone, your laptop, the internet, etc., etc. But it does not, from an evolutionary or biology perspective, look like that's what we were built to do. And that's scary, because we could run into a extraterrestrial intelligence that is built to be intelligent, that potentially has evolved over thousands or hundreds of thousands, millions, even potentially a billion years to just be intelligent. And we are building machinery through artificial intelligence that is built to be intelligent. Our first general AI, if we created even in 1,000 years, whether it's 10, 20, 1,000, 100 years, who cares, will be built to be intelligent. It will not have evolved to survive. It will not have been some accident that happens in some intelligence. It will be built specifically to be intelligent, unlike us. And the scale on which that could carry on is actually mind-boggling. It's like nothing we've ever seen. It's in the realm of fiction, not even science fiction at this stage, to imagine what intelligence could look like. It could be similar to looking at ourselves in a worm, and whatever the worm is doing, we don't refer to that as intelligent, and we don't believe that a worm can look upon us and say, hey, those guys are actually building rockets and building computers and running algorithms and curing cancer. They're doing all sorts of cool things. I'm just here in the mud and no. The worm has no perspective to what we do. The worm or the ant or whatever insect you can imagine has no perspective to what humans are trying to accomplish. And if we meet true intelligence, we would possibly have no perspective on what it's trying to accomplish. Which is really, really interesting as a problem, is that we're going after something, we know it's valuable, but we have no clue what it is, how it works. We don't even really understand our own cognitive abilities. And yet we're on the great hunt to understand it. So I wish us luck as a species, and I'm interested and excited to see how this journey pans out. I think it's quite a long ways away, but as we rattle closer to it, it's going to be quite an interesting journey, exciting and fraught with danger. So yeah, that's my 2 cents for the day. Cheers.